so I'm sure this will taste great. And maybe next time I... Ahoy hoy friends, and welcome to Keystone Cooking. My name's Daniel. If you're looking for food that mostly follows our three Keystone values of being healthy, cheap, and easy, you're in the right place. Now, tired of a green bean casserole that tastes like it's just green beans and some high sodium condensed cream of something soup? Me too, and I'm looking to put something a little bit more fresh on the table this year. So, that's where this recipe comes in. There is no creamed anything from a can in this one. It's not quite as budget friendly, but I mean, when it's the one dish you're going to be bringing to pass, or if it's just one special treat that you're putting on a table, it's not going to break your bank, and it's going to take care of both your waistline and your taste buds. Now, I understand that healthy eating can feel really complicated, but don't worry, because all of my tips that I've got for you are really easy things that you can start doing today. They've helped me lose and keep off more than 40 pounds, and I'm sure they can help you too. At the very end, I'll do a quick review of the food and go over what I changed for next time, so stick around. Let's begin. Now, what these call for first is to blanch about 2.5 pounds of green beans. I've already taken care of washing and trimming them, so they're all set to go, and I've had this pot of water heating up for a while behind me. What we want to do with blanching is we're going to start cooking the green beans for just a little bit of time, then we're going to take them on over to the sink and rinse them in cold water to stop the cooking process. What that's going to do is help them to cook in the oven more quickly and more evenly, without being mushy or overcooked at all with all of the rest of the ingredients put together. We want to make sure that our water's hot when it goes in so that we can be cooking for just a short amount of time and then get them out of there pretty quickly. So that's why it's important to have a large pot of water ready. Let's take a look. Alright, we're working on cooking a couple of other things right now, so we're going to set this timer for 3 minutes. That's about how long they should take. We want to be able to bite into them, and I consider them al dente. Some people call it crunchy soft. Whatever works for you, that's the feeling that we're going for in our mouth. So that we know these beans are ready, then we'll scoop them out, put them right back in this bowl, and take them on over to the sink. We're also going to take advantage of these 3 minutes to put together our topping, because that's not going to take very long. We've got all the ingredients laid out right here. Find it a whole lot easier to work when you've got everything that you need right in arm's reach from the beginning. So we'll set this off to the side and pull out our topping bowl. And all we're going to need is just a half cup of breadcrumbs, 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. So for my 1/4 cup, I did about half of a half cup, because it's pretty close. And then it calls for just a couple tablespoons of parsley. Unfortunately, parsley is one of my favorite things to put on top of food, so I'm not even going to measure. I'm just going to put in plenty into this bowl. And it looks like we've got about another minute left on our beans, so I'm going to go ahead and tidy up my workspace. I love to clean as I go. It makes things easier to work around. Back just in time. Our timer's about to go off. I mean, like, really soon. Almost there. Nailed it. So now we'll just go ahead and give our green beans a taste, try and get them as close to that crunchy, soft, or al dente texture as we can. Alright, that batch didn't quite do it for me, so I set the timer for another minute, just so that we can get them cooked enough. We don't want them to go in raw because they only cook in the oven for 1 to 3 minutes with the rest of the ingredients. Alright, ready to check again. Alright, we've got them right where we want them, so I'm going to go ahead and scoop them right back into this bowl and get them right on over to the sink. Alright, so we're going to get some cold running water right on top of the beans because we want to stop the cooking process. You can get a feel for how well they're coming along just by reaching into them with your hands. You want to make sure that you cool them down on all sides of the bowl and in the middle of the bowl as well. When everything feels pretty well drained out, we want to go ahead and spread them out on a towel so that they can start to dry. Now eventually we'll come back and pat these dry for whatever hasn't finished drying off yet, but until then we'll let gravity do its work and we can go on to cooking the rest of our meal. Next up, we're going to go ahead and start working on our creamy layer. What we need to do is thinly slice our onion and our baby bella mushrooms. They've got a little bit more flavor than just your typical white button mushrooms, so that's why I prefer to go ahead and use these. What we're going to do, and the recipe calls to use oil in our skillet, but since we're cooking on non-stick Teflon, we can skip this oil step because it's just to keep things from sticking to the bottom of the pan, and we're not really worried about that. So we'll go ahead and save some calories and just cook straight on top of the Teflon, and only save the oil adding for when we need it, and not just to keep things from sticking. Once upon a time, I was taught to always take off one more layer of onion than you think you need to when peeling it. And ever since I've done that, I've never had to worry about that slightly tough onion creeping up into my dishes either. And for something like this, where we're thinly slicing the onion, it's going to be even more important that we don't have that tough green layer appearing in any of the bites of our dish. That's just going to leave an unpleasant taste for our guests. Now, some people like the look of the full rings, but I don't, and also I missed a handful of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of them in half, and that way no one will be able to tell that there was a slight bit of extra difficulty cutting through some of the onion, and they'll all look the same. We'll want to go ahead and split up the onion so that they'll be able to cook much more quickly and more evenly than if we leave them all in these big clumps. Next up, cutting up the mushrooms. Now, many baby bellas that you'll be able to find will be much smaller, not even this large, and those I would have just left plain. These are some very wide mushrooms though, so I'm going to go ahead and give these an extra cut right down the middle so that they're much more bite-sized and guests don't have to worry about fitting something this large politely into their mouths. Now the recipe says this will need to saute for about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll want the onions to look nice and soft, and we want the mushrooms to release their liquid so that when we add oil in the next step, the oil will be able to attach to the flour and we won't have water trying to repel the oil from adhering to them. So we'll go ahead and just set a timer to help us keep an eye on things. You'll notice that I'm generally using a flat-bottomed wooden utensil. That just makes it a whole lot easier to scrape along the entire bottom of the pan and make sure that I'm getting everything up so that nothing will stick too long to the bottom and eventually burn. We want to avoid that as much as possible. We can see there's still quite a bit of moisture in the pan too. Alright, so now that our moisture has mostly evaporated and certainly been released from all the vegetables, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of oil. This time it's not for the non-stick properties, but to help the flour adhere to the vegetables. And then we'll go ahead and immediately add our 3 tablespoons of flour. Alright, now that we've stirred it so that no brown bits remain, we're going to go ahead and turn up the heat a little bit and add our yogurt just a splash at a time while we continuously stir it all together so that we avoid any clumps from forming with our flour. Now we're going to give this 8 to 10 more minutes just to thicken up a little bit so we get a nice creamy sauce for our beans. So let's go ahead and set our timer for 8 to 10 minutes just to help us remember when we need to be checking on this. I'll set it for the low end, 8, and then go ahead and add the salt, pepper, and ground nutmeg while we're waiting too. Coming along really well, but I think it needs a little bit more pepper and a little bit more nutmeg. Now our goal is to get a nice creamy gravy. Come on over and take a look. This is actually really good. It's basically like a better version of cream of mushroom soup. It is really good. You can see it's already a lot thicker than when we started, but I think it would be better with a little bit more. So we'll give it another minute or so. I'm feeling really good about the creaminess of this, so we're going to go ahead and pull this off the heat and add in our Greek yogurt to it. Now you'll notice that a lot of recipes use Greek yogurt to help add creaminess in lieu of sour cream because it's higher in protein and comparable in calories. If you get a lighter Greek yogurt, obviously it's going to be fewer calories. I generally opt for the whole milk yogurt, Greek yogurt, just because it's so creamy and delicious. But if you're looking to cut some extra calories out of this dish, go ahead and certainly swap this one out for a lower milk fat Greek yogurt. Alright, now that we've got our sauce done and our beans are done drying over there, we'll go ahead and assemble the whole dish. Alright, now let's go ahead and assemble this delicious smelling casserole. We're going to start by taking half of our beans and laying them down on the bottom. More or less, you don't have to count them out exactly. Then we're gonna go ahead and cover them with about half of our cream sauce. Go ahead and spread it around. Then we'll go ahead and put in our other half of the beans. For those of you still in suspense at home, we're gonna put on the other half of the cream sauce. All right, we're not quite done yet. You remember when we were pre-cooking our beans at the very start? We made that topping. Still in our bowl, we'll go ahead and just mix that up. It's our panko breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, and parsley. Then we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle all of this goodness right on top. There we go. Now that we've got this set, we're gonna go ahead and toss it in the broiler for 1 to 3 minutes on high so that it can just get a nice golden crispy layer on top that everyone really wants from their green bean casserole, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I stopped at the 2-minute mark to go ahead and take a quick look to see how it was coming along. Turns out that not all broilers heat on high at the same speed, and there were literally flames on it when I took it out of the oven. We'll scrape off the crispy bits. It'll be fine. No one has to know. Just you and me. That's all. It'll be fine. Look at this beautiful square over here. Yeah, that looks good. So, whoa. Kind of a bummer to have messed it up at the last moment. Not gonna lie, a little disappointed. I also licked the spoon clean from the sauce that I was making because it was just really good. So I'm sure this will taste great. And maybe next time I am broiling something, I'll check more frequently so I don't literally start a fire in my oven. Live and learn. Green bean casserole. This again was made from scratch with no canned soup. And I measured out about 1/10 of the tray. In my mind I did 3 by 3 and then made it a little bit smaller. Nothing super fancy, but it helped me to know how much I was going to be taking and putting on my plate so that I could enjoy a reasonable number of calories overall in the meal. This also helps with health tip number 8, which is to enjoy the crunch. Just like we drink water at the start of our meal to help our brain begin to think that we're consuming food so it can tell us that we're fuller more accurately upon, our level of satiety. Foods that add crunch to your meal also help trigger the auditory response in your brain so that you can hear yourself eating, which helps you to realize that you're eating and feel that satiety sooner than if you just go with mushy foods. It's really easy to eat a whole bunch of pudding in a row, but if you're eating carrots or green beans in this example, you're going to be able to feel fuller sooner, and in that case enjoy your meal while stopping at an earlier point and consuming fewer calories. In addition, it's health tip number 13, which is to eat more fiber. Fiber sticks in your stomach for longer and helps you to feel fuller for longer so you don't go back snacking again and again and again between meals. In addition, you'll notice that we made just one swap with this recipe from the original that it called for. We cut out some of the olive oil for sauteing the onions. You can notice that reduced our total calorie value by 22% and the fat in this dish by about 50%. Now that on its own, isn't hugely impactful, but when it's part of several other tips that you're putting together, it's really going to make an impact and allow you to enjoy your Thanksgiving meal more guilt-free and maintain the healthy lifestyle that you're looking for. That brings us to the end of this video. So if you liked these tips and tricks, go ahead and check out our Instagram page at Keystone Cooking for some fun food pictures, and our Facebook group at Keystone Cooking, where we share some delicious recipes and notifications about our videos. Subscribe and turn on notifications on YouTube so that you don't miss out on our future tips and tricks, especially if you found these helpful, and go ahead and share these with a friend. In addition, you can check out this playlist. all about healthy side dishes that you can make that are healthy, cheap, and easy. Congratulations on taking steps towards a healthier and happier life. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.